gentlemen, this is the 41st program of Kerala Management Association, this KMA year. Welcome to the 24th Leader Insight lecture series by Mr. Gurkaran singh Bains, IRS Commissioner of Customs, Cochin. To start the function, may I invite Ms. Della Mary of Gibbs School for the invocation song. Please rise.
നന്മരൂപിയായ ദൈവമേ നിനക്കു വന്ദനം. നന്മരൂപിയായ ദൈവമേ നിനക്കു വന്ദനം. ബുദ്ധിയും വിശുദ്ധിയും സ്വഭാവശുദ്ധിയും മഹാശക്തിയും വിവേകവും തരേണമേ ദയാനിധി. ബുദ്ധിയും വിശുദ്ധിയും സ്വഭാവശുദ്ധിയും മഹാശക്തിയും വിവേകവും തരേണമേ ദയാനിധി. നന്മരൂപിയായ ദൈവമേ നിനക്കു വന്ദനം. നന്മരൂപിയായ ദൈവമേ നിനക്കു വന്ദനം.
Thank you, Ms. Della. This week we are celebrating the Management Week. The Management Day is celebrated on 21st February every year, and as traditionally KMA is organizing a week-long celebration. We had one program on 17th. This is the second of its kind, which is happening today, and we have tomorrow one program, and on 21st another program. The details will be explained later on. And now to welcome the August gathering, may I invite Mr. C.S. Karthar, Chairman, Management Week Celebrations.
Good evening, friends. President Bibo Kunuran, Chief Guest Mr. Gurkaran Singh IRS, past presidents, MC members, KMA members, and my dear friends, students. We are now in the second program of the Management Week. In the memorial lecture, Mr. Venugopal C. Govind provided us with valuable insight into the life and the contribution of our Managing Guru, Dr. K.T. Chandy. Following this, Dr. Saji Gopinath also delivered an excellent talk on management transformation. I take this opportunity to extend our gratitude to Mr. A.C.K. Nair for arranging such a distinguished speakers. Today, on the second day of our celebrations, we are very much privileged to have with us an eminent speaker and management expert, Sri Gurkaran Singh Bains, Commissioner of Customs, Cochin. On behalf of KMA, I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Gurkaran Singh. Sir, we are eagerly waiting for your words of this week. A distinguished officer of the 2006 batch of the Indian Revenue Service, Sri Bains brings with him over 15 years of rich and diverse experience. With a strong academic background in mechanical engineering and strategic management, he has served in several positions including Assistant Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, Additional Director, and Additional Commissioner in departments of Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Sri Bains' impressive career is a testament to his exceptional leadership skills, strategic thinking, and dedication to excellence. His tenure as an assistant commander in CRPF has further equipped him with valuable insights into crisis management and team leadership. Beyond his professional accomplishments, Sri Bains is an avid reader, a passionate trucker, a fitness enthusiast with a keen interest in weight training. It is often said that when we visit IAS or IRS officers, we have to wait long hours even after appointments. However, Sri Bains is known for his accessibility and approachability. He maintains a friendly rapport with the trade community and is always open to discussions on key issues. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Sri Gurkaran Singh Bains IAS, IRS, the Customs Commissioner, who will share his invaluable insights and experience with us today. I also extend a heartfelt welcome to each one of you present here for this insightful session. On behalf of, once again, I welcome you all to this talk and invite you to participate in the incoming yoga session tomorrow morning 7 a.m. and the Management Day program day after tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Management Week, Mr. C.S. Karta. Now may I welcome Mr. Bipa Punuran, President, Kerala Management Association, for his presidential letter.
Chief guest of the day, Mr. Gurkaran Singh Bains, IRS, current Commissioner of Customs, Cochin. Chair for the Management Week celebrations, Mr. C.S. Karta. Past President and Officiating Secretary for today, Mr. K. Shastri. Managing Committee Member. Dear KMA members, dear student members, and all present. Once again, a warm good evening and welcome to this 41st meeting of KMA for this KMA year. The topic for today is actually modern day management, and as we all know, we have a great man sitting here who's from the government service who's going to speak to us on management. I was just thinking in the late 90s or early 90s, I would say, one particular experience that or rather what I witnessed was a rich planter who had come to my house, and his car was parked outside, and he was kind of a sort of a semi-king in my town, and when he came out from, he spoke to my parents, and then after the social get-together, when he came out, he could not find his driver. And his driver came in about 10 minutes late because he was not waiting for this particular man in the car. And then in front of everyone, he fired this man left, right, and center, and this man was shaking like a leaf. And for sure, I know that this man continued to be with this particular, we used to call him uncle, and he was there, this uncle. Okay, fast forward to 2025. Today I get a call from my newly appointed, not my newly, one of my zonal managers, giving a complaint about my newly appointed regional manager. And he said, sir, me and my entire team below me are planning to leave because this new regional manager cannot speak nicely to us. So just see what has happened, what has transitioned in the kind of work atmosphere from the 1990s to what we are today. I'm sure people in HR will understand better. Abraham is here. Because today jobs are available in plenty at that point of time. Even today, if I have to speak to my driver, I have several drivers with me in my office in personal, but if I don't speak them and treat them with respect, I'm sure that the next day morning they have an opportunity elsewhere and they can go. So this being the case, and I'm just coming out. I'm from a meeting of TAI where Mr. Aju Jacob, the Managing Director of Synthite, was taking us through the journey of Synthite over the last 50 years. And every company has actually got, different departments: finance, HR, IT, production. Different departments are there. But primarily, management is all about managing people. Because if you do not manage people properly, I'm sure no company can progress. And not only that, every company that has progressed has always had a good team of people with them. It is not, I just heard Aju say, it is not the wise decisions of C.V. Jacob alone that has brought Synthite to be as one of the world's leaders in oleoresins. And it is not many companies of that stage, if you take it. It is not just their managing directors or the chairman or the people who built it up. They have a good team behind them, and that team has particularly built up that company. And one of the most major thing in that is changing with the times. In the 1990s, what we were, when we come to 2000, what we are, 2010, what we are. Every decade, I think there has to be a separate way in which you manage. Your management principles have to change. You have to keep your people together. You have to, upgrade your production or whatever you are in. If it is service, you have to do your services properly. So many things like that happening, because we never heard of mobile phones in the 90s or late 90s. Mobile phones came in. So today, communication is so fast, and that can be for the good or for the bad. All this put together, I think modern day management requires many facets of management. Managing people, managing IT, managing production, every aspect of it. But then basically it is people. That's what I feel. And I'm sure, I'm talking from the private sector perspective, but then we have a stalwart from the public sector perspective too out here, and I'm sure that he's going to throw more light on us on both the private sector and the public sector, and the way in which management can be taken forward and we can develop our companies into better companies, and our country in general to become one of the world's we are one of the world's fastest growing economy, and we can probably become, if things go well, if the pace of growth is maintained, we can, like our Prime Minister says, we can become the real Vikasit Bharat by 2047. So let us hope and let us dream that we are going to reach there very soon. And with this, I would not stop you from listening to our great speaker, Mr. Gurkaran Singh Bains, who has come to address us today. And we thank you once again, sir, for having consented to come over and address this gathering of KU. Thank you and happy listening.
Thank you, President, for showing insight, a prelude to what is in store for us. Now may I welcome our chief guest, Mr. Gurkaran Singh Bains, IRS, Commissioner of Customs, Cochin, for his keynote address.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The President of Kerala Management Association, Mr. Bibu B. Puluran, has hit the nail on the head. Rather not exactly. He's been amiss also a little, because I heard him mention the word great with my name twice when he introduced me. Rather, I feel underqualified when I see stalwarts of businesses, people with experience. The past President, Mr. K.N. Shastri, is here among us. He was telling me on the lift on the way to this venue that since 20 years he's been traveling, and now he's running a travel agency, been more than 50 years. So with when I speak across such experienced people into management in the thick of business, and I'm called great for no reason, I have no experience as far as business management in the traditional private business management sense is called. So that's also management principle. They say if you want someone to do what you want, you call him the same thing. So that's called tagging. I don't know what the technical students may be aware. I'm saying, but you give me hope. There's a starry-eyed young audience, also almost half the room. So I think I'll be able to do some justice to the tag of great which has been given to me. I also thank Mr. Shashi Kartha, my dear friend, a prominent steamer agent in Cochin port, who I keep meeting often, who has very kindly invited me to this August organization of the Kerala Management Association, which is celebrating this management week. I'm told it's a tradition for almost 10 years now. Every week, once a year, people get together and discuss management. And the topic given to me today was modern day management. So, with my credentials as a government servant and an ex-paramilitary man, I can speak a bit about my experience in management. I also had I'd rather say a very good experience of doing the masters in strategic management in a university at Tokyo. So that exposed me to some nuances of management which I think may have some relevance to you. But the biggest thing when we speak of modern management which comes to my mind is the challenge of AI, which is facing all of us today right there in our face. Rather, it's an existential issue which is facing us. In customs, there is something called faceless customs. Rather, to reduce the interaction between the importers and exporters and the officers at the time of clearance of goods at the port, the government with this objective has introduced faceless customs. That means earlier, whenever someone wanted to import or export something, he would go to the port, to the customs officer, present his goods, explain what it is and what the value is, what the laws applicable are, and try to pass the goods through the customs. And that naturally led to all the ills which are associated with direct across the table negotiations, because that is what they actually were. You were discussing about the value, the importability, all aspects of the good. So the government introduced faceless customs. That means once you file something to be cleared into the country, so it's no longer the person at the port who will be looking at your case. There will be someone remotely sitting somewhere else in the country, maybe Bombay or Delhi or Calcutta. You don't even know yourself that who will be looking at your paper. So the idea is that this would reduce corruption, this would reduce personal motives which people come to have, unfortunately. So with this, it's a noble initiative and it has kind of mixed feelings, because sometimes there are genuine concerns which one can more appropriately put across when you sit across a table. But then we have to weigh the overall facts, and the government in its wisdom has introduced it. So we are faceless as of now, customs. So next step is we are going to be brainless. It may sound amusing as we laugh now, but that's the, we keep reading it. I mean, the world leaders are discussing it, wars are being fought on AI. These are very simple, basic questions of simple decisions. There is no rocket science in it. So once these databases are prepared of what has entered the country, what interdictions were done by the man on the ground, whether faceless or with a face. So if this data is combined and it becomes rich enough, then the next stage becomes of brainless. So why do we even need the man? So, but then that gives me even more joy that we are here together, physically, right across, interacting with each other. Because end of the day, we are humans. We could have done the same thing online, sitting in our, technically that is also more appropriate. We would be more comfortable. I could see a couple of people drowsy here. So, in our own, and no one could judge us. And if the speaker is interesting enough, we can listen, otherwise we can doze off. That's the ultimate test of convenience, ideas, communication. You would have listened, you could have seen the same face, not three-dimensional, but maybe now digital technology is even getting to that level. So that exactly, if you ask me, is the challenge facing modern day management. That what is the relevance of us as human beings? What is the relevance of whatever we are learning, however we are learning? There are these programs which are learning them, storing them for retrieval without fail, clinically. So it's like I don't know who among you have read that Frankenstein novel, or 1984 of George Orwell. So that time is right there. So this exactly is the challenges which we face in modern day management. Students stalwarts are there, but still we need to understand management is basically the four pillars which we call plan, organize, lead, and then control, as they say. But what exactly is it? Management is a means by which civilized, educated society, or even a man, a company, you can scale it up or down from an individual to a small compact team of persons sitting across a table, or a huge organization. The means to achieve an objective, that is the means, or that is the whole point of having any management. You have a clear objective, what you want, and then you get together if you are more than one, and if you are alone, still you follow all those processes and get what you want. And you get what you want in the most efficient manner. That, simply put, is management. And when we talk about management, there are no hard and fast rules about management. It is dynamic. The president was mentioning that era is gone, that where the strict, what you call X theory, or what is it in management? Whatever the team leader, the boss says is correct, my way or the highway.
Autocratic leadership.
Yes, autocratic leadership. So it was mentioned that it is gone, but not exactly. I worked in the paramilitary, so there that leadership is still there, and it is required because it is a means to an end. So you are supposed to be leading a group of armed people, 100 odd armed people as a company commander. Each one of them has on the tip of his finger the power to take a human life with his automatic rifle, and he's class 10 pass with that mental level. So in that situation, you have to, with those parameters, when you lead such men, it's not belittling soldiers, but they are called wooden-headed for a reason, because they are trained day in and day out to take commands, listen to them without questioning. That's the purpose of having a drill, what we see. Because that is the requirement of the job. You're not supposed to question your superior officer when you're commanded to do something. That's the requirement of job. So that is one style of management which is appropriately put into practice on the ground depending upon where the situation is. The other situation is the businesses where profit is the motive, where people get together to sell a product or a service and achieve their objectives in the best possible manner, using the minimum of resources while getting the maximum of results. So that is another kind of management where these softer skills as the President was mentioning, become the most critical. So, in that, my also experiences, what they teach me, I had a very interesting experience in Japan while studying management. So we went to a municipal office in Katsushika ward of Tokyo, where I was staying, and you are supposed to go and register yourself there when you are staying there as a long-term resident. You get your health card and your something like an Aadhaar card, even if you are a temporary foreign visitor on a student's visa there. You got to do those registrations in a municipal office in Tokyo. There are different wards in Tokyo. The wards also hand over the education benefits, the health benefits, all kinds of the birth certificate, death certificate, these kind of services which citizens require. These offices cater to them. So I entered one such office and I was floored, what you call a Mike Tyson uppercut, by what I was seeing. They were entering the door. I was greeted by, black coats and pants with white shirts, smartly dressed ladies who just told, what do you want, what do you want? They are very, they're poor in English, Japanese generally. They have a problem communicating, most of them. So, what do you want, what do you want? Half gesticulating and half speaking. They asked me. I said that I want to register myself. Once they understood that, they ushered me towards a desk where some forms were laying. They asked me, do you know how to fill it up? I said, of course, I can try. I am educated. So I started filling them up. They stood a little distance away from me, but they kept a coy eye on me. That what is this man doing? So in between they came, do you need any help? So I ended up filling the form. Then they come along with me. There was a window, the kind of window you get at McDonald's or with a number or something. They made me submit the form there. There was a sofa lying in front of that digital number display. Then I was guided there to sit there, and then said chotomate. Chotomate in Japanese means wait some time, wait a minute, exactly. So I waited there for about 5-10 minutes, and of course I'm not dumb. I could see the number there. But what was heartening was that they also kept an eye. That when my number came, they came running to me. Number. I was about to get up only. Anyway, the point is they took me again to the window, and I got my document. It took about 10 minutes, and they escorted me to the door, opened the door, and in the typical, Japanese way, they go like this, and they greeted me out of their office. I stood outside and I started wondering, is this Alice in Wonderland? I had about 15 years of, 17 more. About 15 years of experience I had in government service by that time. And what had hit me, I did not even understand. And I don't know how many of you have been in a Japanese government office for some work, but that is what I was faced. And that made me realize that the room for improvement in public offices as far as service delivery is concerned is as big as it gets. Because here, without criticizing, because I can't criticize where I work, but then you have to call a spade a spade. There is a lot of ground to be covered until we reach those levels of service. So that exactly became my point of study there in the Tokyo management program that I did for about 1 year. So I was just, this is a public office. There is no profit motive here. Why would anyone, go out of the way to serve me the way? And that was not only me. Sitting there, I could see that everyone was being treated like that. That what is behind this? This is magic. pure magic which is happening in front of my eyes. So I did my research on that, and what I found was, which formed part of my thesis also. The first thing I found was that those smartly dressed ladies in the black suits were not public servants. They were contractual private employees who were working in that office on a contract. And the levels of service were explicitly mentioned in the contract, that how exactly they would be behaving. And it was also noticed that they had been deployed after due training on these finer aspects. So that was one reason what I found. Then another thing which was found was that there was no one supervising them, as we see in the traditional and what we expect. If someone is, in management, it is said if you want out of the world results, there must be constant monitoring. Any slip up must be immediately rectified. So again, I found was that there was no one from the government employees or even private ones. There was no supervisor. The senior most among those 5 or 6 ladies which were on that huge floor would just keep a loose supervision on her colleagues, and that is what I think the president was referring to, that to perform at magical levels of management, it is not the fear of retribution, or as the lady put it, the management by autocratic management. But here was a situation in which self-motivation was working. So there is a McGregor's motivational theory why, which management students may know. So this was seen in practice at in the live situation of excellence. I also saw nudge management into practice there. I'm sure most of you would be aware of what nudge management is. So they had put some forms which periodically these ladies were supposed to fill up, and they were self-assessment forms, that where do you think were your major failures this week, and what do you think made you really happy, how do you think what was the biggest achievement during this week. So they would collect all this data, read it, but not do anything much on it. So this is like nudge management. People are made to realize whenever they fill out these forms that what are their own shortcomings and what are their, how they can improve, so that it comes to your active mind. And that is the nudge which we saw there. And then interestingly, there were no monetary benefits. Even the customers, that is the citizens which were visiting the Katsushika ward office, municipal office there, they were also asked feedback about how happy they are with the services, and I was elated. So that was also one data collection which they were collecting there. So the point what I'm trying to make here is that in modern age, the biggest, how to keep those levels of motivation, how to put those structures into place where you get excellent, out of this world service delivery or products, whichever field you choose in, that becomes a challenge, especially so more because the whole world is out to get your attention. The whole world, the modern world, is the only human thing which is the most precious with us are our thoughts. Those of you, I really recommend that book. There's a book, 17th century Englishman, Mr. James Allen has written that book, As a Man Thinketh. So the basic theme of that book is that whatever a man thinks manifests itself into reality. That is again Paulo Coelho, those of you who have read The Alchemist. So that gentleman lived a couple of centuries earlier, but and I couldn't find, because end of the day we all have our own individual stories to tell and experiences, but I have found some universal and basic wisdom in what he says. Because they say your deepest thoughts, your actual thoughts, they become your habits. Your habits turn into your circumstances, and your circumstances make your life. There cannot be anything true to that, irrespective of however criticism may be to this statement, but generally justice prevails in this universe. And over time, if one is consistent enough, the results are there for everyone to see. People who are doing good in the world, generally, mostly you will see they have their thoughts in the right place, which are making them do the actions on a consistent basis, on a habitual basis, which keeps them where they are. And people who are not doing so well in the world, they have to self-introspect. They have to look within, that where are the thoughts going negative on a consistent basis, where I am falling behind and I'm in the situation where I am right now in. Progress in the world, success in the world, as we call it, can start from any moment, a man or a woman, for that matter. This is a gender neutral term by which I am using this word. And that's the name of the book, As a Man Thinketh. When the person changes his thoughts fundamentally, and he does it on a consistent level, everything falls in place and a person gets what he wants. Try it. I have tried it, and I think that it is more true than not. And end of the day, we are all experimenters here, and that is, management is also a bit of experimentation. There is nothing called static management. Management is like a living organism. Like I mentioned, you have to keep adjusting from an autocratic management to, which is applicable in some situations, but to mostly, being able to carry people together, being able to form a team where people willingly give their best, what tactics you need to use, what personal charisma you require as a leader. All these things become, but then coming back to that question of the modern challenge. So this critical thing which makes us human, which makes us still relevant as we speak now, as on date, there is a all-out assault on our active thinking process through this great device which has made our world very easy. From the moment we wake up in the morning, the screen time, it's something, there's a term called monkey brain, it jumps from one branch to another, and it's an intelligent thing. It learns what you like to see, and the moment you open it, it's wicked, I'll say. It starts making sounds if you ignore it for some time. Just observe, I don't know. We are all in the same boat together. We are facing these same challenges. Suddenly you open this screen intending to spend 10 minutes, and you realize it's been 2 hours. 2 hours of your precious life force, your precious time lost. And like I mentioned, if you were listening carefully, especially the youngsters here who have the long life ahead of you, thoughts are all you have, and they are the most important thing that a person can nurture and develop, which will in the long term decide the trajectory of your life, which may be the difference. Over long term, the difference will be so huge, it can be tragic to sterlingly successful. So this is something which we need to consciously imbibe and fight against. That is why a fixed routine, people who meditate regularly really recommend that. It's basically starting to become one with yourself, being in touch with who you actually are. And once you are that, which is challenge in today's world, then these larger things of managing other people, of keeping the objectives of your organization in the core, consistent efforts towards that. All these become relevant only after we cross that hurdle. It's a process. I won't say it is an event, but that, how much time do you have? Please, sometimes I have a habit of going ahead and please tell me when it is time to go. So, then coming to once, let us see, we are balanced people with our minds in our head and we are primed to gain success in this world. Then in a typically, private organization sense, as the President had already mentioned, it cannot be overemphasized that soft skills are the most important thing that a manager, a successful business leader, or even a successful standalone proprietor can develop to take his fortune much ahead of where it is presently. These soft skills, they begin with, first of thing, you have to be likable. You have to be likable. You can't be likable if you are disagreeable. You can't disagree on everything with everyone and then be likable. You may be right. So again, there are old thinkers on this. Benjamin Franklin is a very famous thinker of America, who in 17th century America, who has laid down specific skills which a person needs to develop. Abraham Lincoln is again one proponent, considered one of the greatest leaders of men in war as well as in peacetime. Abraham Lincoln never ever lost his cool on anyone. He was known never ever to criticize anyone. So I think this is a very common management principle, but yet still it cannot be emphasized more enough. If you want other people to do what you want, you can't criticize them generally and constantly and make them see your point of view. Regarding this, there's a very famous story of Mr. Two-Gun Crowley, which does rounds to those who read management books. So it's like there was a very notorious gun, gunda, what do you call, in America, Mr. Crowley. So he always carried two guns. So that is why he was called Two-Gun Crowley. So one day he was standing parked his car somewhere on the roadside. He was sitting there with his girlfriend. A policeman walked in and asked him to show him his license. He just took out one gun and shot the policeman dead. And then naturally there was a huge manhunt for the criminal. So after days of tracking about 150 NYPD policemen, it is said that they surrounded him in one of a flat, which was again his girlfriend's flat, so where he was hiding. And there was a shootout, and ultimately he was caught. He was caught unharmed, and they say when he was caught, he said, "In this court beats a heart which is weary, but which is not unkind." He had written this note in his blood so that if he dies, so people can read it. Anyhow, he was arrested and he was sentenced to death. So he was taken to the electric chair. And what do you expect? So did he repent? Did he say that, look where I have come because of what I did? No. He said, look what one gets for defending oneself. The point in this story is that we, all of us as human beings, we are not very different from Mr. Two-Gun Crowley. So once we form an opinion, it may be the most unjust thing in this whole world or the most just. The thing is that for us, it becomes the gospel truth of this whole world. And if someone tries to force another point of view on us, we will defend it till the very end, like Mr. crawl up to the electric chair. This is a very important basic thing, especially youngsters who are beginning in life, because sometimes what we see across social media, movies, advertise a kind of a tough personality as of being a more effective one, the autocratic style of leadership as being the more successful, but it is diametrically opposite in the real world. The only way to form a good team is to be able to carry people together with you. And the only way to be able to carry people with you is to stop criticizing them. Even if they are wrong, you have to find ways and means and words to indirectly try to put your point across without making it blatant to them that they are wrong. Then you may have a chance to bring them towards your way of thinking. Try it. I mean, in management books and all, these concepts are repeated more enough, but I found them very practical in my experience. Recently, in Customs House, we keep seizing gold in the airport. Rather, gold smuggling is a big problem in this part of the country. Last year, we were able to seize about 650 kgs of gold in Kerala. So most of it ends up in the custom house where it is stored before it is taken up. No, don't plan a heist or something. But still, I mean, most of it ends up to the custom house before it is taken away by the mint officers who come from Bombay or other places. So recently there was an incident. Naturally, and we are wary because we are custodians of that gold. We want, I mean, these are zero error situations. You can't be, mugged, or, these mugging people are all around these days. Someone recently made my Facebook profile and, conned 30,000 rupees from one of my friends. And so all these frauds are there. So I had told my subordinate officer that please make sure that the person who comes to claim the gold, just ensure his identity. Either you must know him personally, or you must call that whatever numbers are there on public resources, government websites, to ensure that the right person has come to claim. Just don't hand over the gold to someone who comes there to take the gold. So I was sitting late evening in office one day, and a news reached me, sir, that there is this gentleman has come from Bombay as per your directions. We were ensuring his antecedents, but now he refuses to take the gold. And he says that I'm putting it in writing that I'm not, taking this gold. He had specially come from Bombay to take the gold. They come time to time, and I said that it's a small minor problem must be there. Then I sent my deputy commissioner there. I told him to speak with the gentleman and sort out whatever his problems are. There were small problems like, signing there, that, I won't sign this, I won't write this line, receipt, this, that, comma, full stop, whatever. Then I called my joint commissioner. I said that, please see, government work must not stop for private egos or whatever. The gentleman has come to claim this gold, it must reach the mint safely. So he also went there and spent some time, after about half an hour. Now it was getting quite late in the evening. So he also came and he said, it's not possible. I mean, the man is unreasonable. Then I said, wow. I had happened to read these principles somewhere recently, so then let's take a try. First I called my people, understood the whole situation. So basically he was supposed to, write some particular lines in the proper format, which he had never ever done earlier, but which were actually required. And there are so many grey areas when you get into nitty-gritties. It's more about cooperation than anything in those scenarios. So that gentleman was furious when he walked in. The first thing I told him was to come and have a seat. And then I called for some water. I also offered him tea. And he just burst out. He said, "Sir, I have 40 years of experience in government. I joined in somewhere early 20 something. I'm retiring at the end of this month. And I've come here to this custom house. Everyone blames your people because they don't trust us, And I've come here and they're asking me to show my ID. I've shown my ID, but then they are even not believing that. Then they are calling my junior, sitting in my office, in front of my face, and asking me, and asking my junior, that is this person right or is he a fraudster? And I held my hand. I told my people aside, I told you to confirm his identity, but I didn't tell you to belittle him in front of his face. He said, they're calling me. I mean, that's where egos, come in. And then it became a big, I started getting calls from Delhi that why is this mint officer being troubled and this and that. But then he said, now it's too late and this and that. That was what the situation was. But, the more he vented out, the more I listened patiently, the more I saw that he is, then finally he just signed everything, took the gold and went away. Why I am trying to tell that just a patient ear to someone, understanding what he is saying, empathy, where is he speaking from, that gets you what you want mostly in life. This is a small incident I just related to you recently from my place of work, but it is all around us. The world is all around us. We want people to do things which other people may or may not want, or may be confused about whether they want or don't want to do it. So to increase the probability of getting people to do what you want, which is again a prime task of management, prime task as a leader. So I would suggest that this, as the President had said, especially in private businesses, working for profit, the softer skills of management are the place to be. And these are nothing new principles, like I mentioned, since the times of Abraham Lincoln and Mr. Benjamin Franklin, a well-known, effective public spokesman. They have been in vogue. It's only that we sometimes lose focus on what is important and other issues and factors creep in. So I think then there are not many stories to tell on management, but I think so. I've done my time, and there's another thing which I learned: one must not overshoot the time ever, because time is all we have. And I again repeat, modern management, if you ask me, the biggest robbery is on your attention, on your time. This invasion must be consciously fought against. Don't become a recluse, is what my suggestion is. I mean, you must know you have to keep pace with everything, because otherwise you become a dinosaur. Whatever is happening in the world, whatever new things are happening, you must keep pace with that. So exposure up to that level with everything is a must in this world. But at the same time, you have to protect that thing which is only yours and which makes you human, which are your own focused thoughts, where you realize yourself and where you will realize your businesses, your management, your goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts on modern day management. Now it's time for Q&A. Those who want to ask questions can raise their hands.
Hello, sir. It was indeed a meaningful session of yours, especially the advice that you would like to give to all the youngsters over here now. So it depends upon our thoughts, the way we think, which will just determine the personality and where we would be in the future. Now, when talking about the modern day management, our biggest challenge, we all know AI, artificial intelligence now, which has just taken cover in many of the industry sectors. So now, like graduates like soon now we will be also like starting a new corporate life. So even in our like initial phase, when things are like not getting favorable just because of this AI, if there's a threat to our job, so what kind of advice would you like to give to youngsters like us who will be like next productive resource of the nation?
AI, like I already said, it's an aid to who you are. So the moment it starts to replace you, naturally, as a human, you start thinking about it as a threat. But again, as on date, nothing can replace the twinkle in your eye when you look at your colleague, the genuine smile which gradually comes on your face and which one can easily differentiate from a fake smile. So these are the things which make you human, and you must nurture and keep with yourself what is human. There are no rights or wrongs to the answer to the question which you have posed. AI is there, what it may bring in the future we'll find out, all of us. But then the basic master-slave relationship must be fought for. You have to be the master. Human has to be at the end and AI has to be the server. The moment AI starts becoming the master and telling humans what to do, how to do, when to do, and how to feel, I think that's when the equation becomes inverted, and that is my answer.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. There is something called diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. When Donald Trump took charge, American president, there was an air accident, and he was mentioning about due to the DEI recruitment, this happened. But at the same time, we have to encourage DEI type of workforce around the world. Can you just throw some light on that?
What DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusiveness.
Yes, they must be there.
Yeah, in all recruitment process, that kind of things are happening.
What has an air crash got to do with diversity?
Because most of the racial people are migrating to United States and they handled this Air Force, all these things. That's why this happened. He is just behaving like an autocrat, not encouraging DEI.
These are political questions. What do they have to do with management? Celebrating the management awareness week. The choice of the people, and he's representing his country as the president taking executive decisions. Whatever he decides, that is the system of government, and it has to be endured for his tenure. Until then, there are other mechanisms, the Senate and the US Supreme Court, and well, these are political issues. I mean, I don't think this is a management question, is it? Okay.
Sir, at the end of the day, of having heard several speakers, I think your speech was quite humorous. You were speaking out of your heart. There was not much of a preparation, but then it appears that you've been trained pretty well. But then my question is that you are heading a force which is subjected to so much of pressure. The gold is coming this way, and there are a lot of people going after you, chasing your people with all kinds of incentives and all those things. How does the government of India keeps its force, motivated that they be true to their jobs? You must be having a very tough time trying to, keep them in chains.
Thanks for the appreciation. It is very well taken. As far as the motivation, I really appreciate that you told that, because it's very easy to boast about achievements as a head of an organization of 400 people approximately, who are working day in, day out, even as we speak, on Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, Holi, Diwali. Customs never ceases to work at the airport or other formations. We are always there. So naturally, it has some effects, and unfortunately, recently I mentioned it in one of our officers even made an attempt at his own life. So it's not that uniformed forces and your onerous responsibilities on your shoulders along with the private, personal pressures which may be there. So they are always there, which we have to fight against. But the bigger thing is that as uniformed officers working shoulder to shoulder, we generally are able to maintain a camaraderie which makes us perform better than what we would be able to do working alone. I'm also glad that this aspect came up, because especially to youngsters, I would like to mention these thoughts that whatever you aim in life, of course, it can't be puny or small. It has to be huge. It has to be substantial. Dreams are supposed to be huge. But then at the same time, you must tie it very clearly. Just look around. Open your eyes. No great achievement was ever made by a single man alone. Whoever you may be, however talented you may be, you need a team, a solid team. You need those human relations which propel you towards what your true potential is. Your whole success depends upon whether you are able to, and how successful you are able to get that close-knit team. You can make, multinational companies. Single man can start and do it. The only thing is you got to gel in with the right people. You have to have the right skill set within that team, and then there has to be integrity. There has to be integrity. Again, you just can't take something which doesn't belong to you, and you can't be the same man ever again. And end of the day, the pie is very big. We are the fastest growing economy in this world. It's not that it was being mentioned earlier that jobs. It's management is about not only being a job seeker. Management is, gradually going through the ranks. Naturally, anyone planted at the top never becomes effective unless he understands what the real struggles at the ground are. But then, ultimately, you have to understand the problems, and then you have to lead people as a team, willingly. So, again, coming to your question, customs, I'm glad we have a self-motivated good force here, and we are being able to successfully check in gold smuggling, drugs in substantial quantities. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful session. So this is Amar Gupta here. Actually, I wanted to know, you mentioned very rightly that one needs to be likable. If we want, in management, it's all about getting the things done. But we as youngsters, genuinely entering into the corporate, so what I've seen is that being a manager, it's not always possible to be likable. Sometimes when we are performing our responsibilities, roles and responsibilities. So in that case, sometimes things turn upside down where we need to take harsh decisions. And at that time, the likability, whatever that person had for that particular manager or the particular people in the organization, at that time it changes in just one go. Like for example, if an organization fires employees because they are not able to perform in a very good way. So how can a person can you give your own experience that if one wants to be likable, how can they be, and what are the ways they can take to become one?
That's a
Thank you so
whole
much.
topic requiring another 45-minute talk in itself. How to be likable. I've done some reading on this because I keep reading right, left, center, good literature. I can recommend you a couple of books rather than trying to encapsulate everything here. Read Benjamin Franklin. Kindly do. And I request all young children especially to read him and understand what he is trying to say. How to be likable, there is a science to it. It's not only, you are focusing too much on events. You are a worker, he is a team leader, and then this in a minute everything changes because he has to do his job. Okay, ठीक है, on the face of it, this seems to be a practical question, but you are forgetting the basic background, the canvas of the painting. That is human relations. There are science, there is a science behind it, there are principles behind it. There is something called reciprocity. If you do something, some good to someone, if you do some good to someone, as a human being, it becomes very difficult for the other person to forget it. That's the principle which the shopkeeper, applies when the moment you walk in, he says, "Oh, thanda lao," give him a cold drink. The moment you sip that cold drink, you are done. You walk out more often than not with something in your hand. And there are principles of scarcity. Again, shopkeepers apply it. You walk to a store and you say, "I want this one." No, you don't even say you want this one. You say, "How much is this for?" You show some interest. He says, "Sir, actually this is the only piece available. We have to deliver it in the evening." But if you say, "I'll call one from the next shop," human beings are like, "Oh, that's how we have evolved." It's our reptile brain speaking. The cooperation is a basic human need. We climbed out of the African jungles and dared to form cities and villages only because we were able to cooperate with each other. Work in team, hunt down bigger animals. So these are basic instinctual human behaviors. So if you think the manager controlling people below him through rebuking and through being tough, he's not at ease. It's against his basic nature. The team being more effective or not is secondary. It's not an equilibrium, a sustainable, something will give sooner or later, and not to the betterment of the organization. There has to be basic synergy between the controlled and the controller. So like I mentioned, reciprocity, these are all principles. I read Robert Cialdini, Persuasion. So how to be likable? You like people who are like you. I had a friend recently, he's into business, and he was cribbing before me. He said, "I like this business client, but last time, he mentioned this political thought. I didn't like him after that. I'm not going to." If you're doing business, you got to start, and you have to be liked. If someone mentions a political thought, you may or may not agree with it, but business is business. What harm is it in saying, yeah, you are right, I also support the same guy? It's called being street smart. Humans are basically creatures of emotion. But among all that emotion, as a background, you have to have, when we are talking as managers, we have to have a very deep, solid understanding of how humans behave and what is the instinctual reaction of humans. There are click and run theories and all. I really make these notes, and if you can read about them. We take most of the decisions mostly because we can't even, because that's the way human mind is. We can't actively think about problems, issues, and then give our answers. We are, ever since, listening to authority. So, if you time permits, I'll give a small.
You have got all the time.
Pardon?
You have got all the time. Pearls of wisdom.
That is so nice. So I was under training. Naturally, you don't name your friends, especially when you mention them in bad light. But then a friend of mine who was a fellow officer came to me. He was supposed to appear for the interview again. I'm a mechanical engineer, by the way. So he was appearing again. He wanted to become an IPS officer. So he cracked the UPSC written exam again, and his interview was lined up. So he came to me, as one goes to a grand old man. So he said, "Please give me. I'm an engineer. but I don't know much about. I'm also a mechanical engineer, but I don't know much about mechanical engineering. Please, I just took out my dipstick and I took a test on him. He was from IIT Delhi. He put the record straight. So I said that you know the difference between a petrol engine and a diesel engine. He said no. I looked right, left, and center. I said okay. I tried to explain it to him in one or two words. Then I said, do you know what the function of compressor is in an air conditioning system? He looked right and said, he said no. Then I looked carefully at him. I said, are you from IIT Delhi? Are you sure? Then I told him, I mean, the compressor is, you know, try blowing your air from your mouth with your mouth like an O. The wind will be cold. But the same thing you do with your mouth wide open, it's warm. So it's the same air coming from the same lungs. How does it become cold? Well, that is the principle of, you know, air conditioning. When you compress air and suddenly it expands, the cooling effect is there. So anyhow, I'm just trying to brag here. But the point I'm trying to make is that the guy was selected for the record. He's an IPS officer now. But the thing is that never ever go for titles. You know, bland titles, however big they may be. You know, always try to. This thought came from click and run. You know, humans are designed to, you know, think like shortcuts. Someone is from IIT Delhi, must be really good, must be sharp. You know, but then sometimes reality is totally different. So there's very interesting experiments how human mind works. There's this famous book which everyone reads. I'm also reading it. Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. So there's an experiment done on it. You know, people are made to see a screen in which a basketball is being passed from one group of people to the other. You know, and people are told to count the number of passes which have happened. And while people are busy doing that, a big gorilla passes slowly behind that screen from one end corner of the screen to the other. In the end, the questionnaire is asked to the people that how many of you did you see the gorilla? 70 to 80% people did not see the gorilla. Because when the human mind is busy on one thing, they miss something which is right there. It wasn't a small gorilla kind of a thing, but that's how we think. So when that, coming to your question again, it's been a long answer, but then being likable is a science. You have to learn. These are all Nobel laureates, Daniel Kahneman and all, and they are very relevant to management, because acing management means acing how humans think and being alive and active to it, not only passively but being able to implement that knowledge. So these are all principles. If you are consistent with these principles, I'm sure you'll be a successful, well-liked leader. But be kind to your people.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone present here. Myself, Shivaji. So, sir, I would ask something opposite to his question. So, in an organization, we have different types of people. So, we can say, as Mr. President said, people are important. People are like assets of the organization. And as different people have different perspectives. So as an individual, when we work also, we have our own ideologies, even though our main objective is to attain the organizational objectives. But our peer mates or our co-workers might have different perspectives on us. So as Sir was talking about criticism, right? So they can give a lot of criticism about how we work, or maybe do all those bad talkings behind our backs and all. So how much, if we try to neglect it also as an individual, we are all humans, and it will somehow affect our emotions or maybe the work productivity which we are doing. So would you like to throw some light on that, and have you ever experienced such situations in your work life, and could you please share something on that?
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You just made a declaration. that this will impact the way I work and my motivation with that. It may not. Keep the possibility open. I agree totally with you when you say that we are humans and all these things do matter. But then you can train your mind to a state where it can actually stop affecting you. That's what I mean when I say that you have to connect to yourself at a much deeper level. Why in today's world of distraction, I mean, each one of us has amazing power as a human being. It may be cliche as far as it sounds, but there cannot be a bigger truth. As humans, we have immense power. When you say, but end of the day it affects us, it's a declaration. You are training your mind to assume something. It may actually be that when you think about these principles consciously and keep them, well brushed up, that how one is supposed to think. Epictetus is again a Greek philosopher. So he, someone came to him and said, "Oh, the Senate is trying your case." He says, "Oh," but he said, "This is the 5th hour of the day. It is my time for exercise and a cold shower." So after some time he's done his exercise, the person comes and says, "Oh, you've been condemned." He says, "To banishment or to death?" He says, "To banishment." "Have they taken my property?" He says, "No, they haven't. They've spared your property." "Okay, then we'll go to Erysia and die." I didn't know I went into Greek Stoic philosophy, but the point is, even if there is misfortune in front of you, there are some critical things. The way you think has to be positive. What do you salvage? Has everything been taken away from you? It's never the case. What the most often the case is, we humans become caught up because of small things, small irritations, which may not have a big effect on the overall scheme of things. The way someone speaks to you, the tone and tenor, you may not like it, and you may let it affect your whole mood. But then it's your choice. It's your choice, end of the day. You have to reclaim that choice back again. Like the philosopher will never forget his exercise or his cold bath at the appointed hour. And even if he is punished, he'll still go and say, "So what, I'm banished, I'll go here and have my food." So idea is to take things positively and read the basic. You're all management students, so you are in the right place. By the way, there's an attack on management, in case you didn't know. We keep reading it about these days, because of the AI and all this, that, sciences are being preferred. But then, till humans are there, management will always be relevant. Thank you.
I think I can put forward a life story to both of you, students who asked this question. Because see, I have this young guy who is working in my HR department, and I heard that he is a little too rough with some of our staff. So I called him out one day and asked him why he can't behave more nicely, because I was getting these complaints. Why he can't behave a little bit more nicely with our staff instead of giving complaints. And then the first thing that he told me is, "Sir, are we not a corporate and should we not have a corporate culture?" So I said, your conception of corporate is completely wrong. Do you feel that, being harsh with your staff, subordinates, is what you call corporate? No. And then, luckily, I had this article on Ratan Tata with me, which I shared with him, of how humane he was. And he said, and I told him, if India's biggest industrialist can be so humane with his staff, I think you can be even more. 1 month later, he came to me and said, "Sir, I'm a changed person," and I get very, very little complaints about this particular person right now. So I think, see, you should not carry in your head, students should not carry in your head that,
A corporate culture means that you have to be very harsh and tough with your subordinates. Nothing like that. You have to be more humane. That's the model that this is something that happened in my organization just about a couple of months. So I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, sir. And we have now come to the end of the program. Just to remind you, we have 2 more days of hectic activity. Tomorrow we have the Health Awareness Day of Kerala Management Association, starting with a yoga practice session at 7 o'clock, followed by a one-to-one session with the team from Medical Trust Hospital, caring for your aches and pains. So please don't miss that opportunity. Please do come and take the necessary corrective actions if at all you need. And also we have a free vitals checkup planned from 8 o'clock to 11:30 in the morning. And one more extra offer for all the ladies present here. You have a 50% off on the entire health checkup for women by our Medivision group of companies. So please do avail all those things. See you all in the morning at 7 o'clock. And on 21st, we have the Women Managers Forum coming up with a Leader Insight session by Ms. Elizabeth Isaac, founder of Gunam Beauty. So please do support us and come in large numbers for these 2 programs on 20th and 21st. Over to our past president, K.N. Shastri sir, for the vote of thanks.
I will make it as brief as possible. Listening to the questions and the answers by the speaker, it reminded me of the old saying that said, the purpose of education is not to get all the answers. The purpose of education is to provoke you to ask more questions. So that is exactly what you're doing. There is no final answer for any questions as such. The more you learn, the more the answers you find. Speaker of the day, Mr. Singh, President, Secretary, our Chair for the Management Week, and students, ladies and gentlemen. The speaker's talk was today like a breath of fresh air, because I have heard many management speakers, management gurus talking on various subjects on management. But here he was talking purely out of his personal experience. It's grounded to the root. It is not borrowed from the Harvard and Oxford materials. I'm sure that all of you get a lot of these materials in your classes, people quoting from various books on the various universities, overseas universities. This is a man who has grown here with this ground. And remember, he is a Sardarji, rooted in the Punjab to the ground. Punjabis are known for that, and it's very robust. And he is also can be very flamboyant. He doesn't look always very restricted like this. A fine gentleman. You have done a great job today and added to our Management Week celebrations. And I'm sure that by the questions what we had today, everybody listened to you very carefully, and also you provoked them to ask questions. Thank you very much, sir, and we enjoyed your talk today. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the members, to the students, to the speaker again. Thank you very much.
Before we rise for the national anthem, may I request the President to hand over a memento to our speaker, Mr. Gurkaran Singh Bains, IRS Customs Commissioner, Cochin.
That's another management lesson. Always personalize gifts. Thank you so much.
Please rise for the national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कलवङ्गा विन्ध्य हिमाचल यमुना गङ्गा उच्चल जलधितरङ्गा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Oh, yes, thank you.
काली बत्ती हाँ हाँ